Welcome to the Floored-U-Cation podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hedin, owner of Illustrious Hardwoods in Phoenix, Arizona. We're here to talk with contractors from all across the country about the issues that matter to you. This week's guest is Jeremy Waldorf. Jeremy is a regional business manager for Schonox. Schonox has many subfloor preparation products to make your jobs go more smoothly. Subfloor prep can be an often overlooked process, and Jeremy is here to give us insight into how it can make our lives easier and how it may not be as hard as you thought. Jeremy Waldorf, are you on the line?
I'm here.
Awesome. Welcome to the Floored-U-Cation Pro podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Let's start it off. Give me a little bit on your background.
So I've been in the flooring trade my entire life. I'm 41 years old, and my dad was a flooring contractor for about 55 years. He got me into the business. I've been an installer for, I guess, officially 25 years, running my own company, Legacy Floors, out of Michigan for 21 of those years, primarily specializing in hard surface. I'm an NWFA certified wood installer and inspector, CTI certified tile installer. I was a Forbo associate mechanic for a while, and have just had about every experience I can get in the flooring installation side of the business. So in June of this year, a position opened up with Schonox, HP subfloors, and I decided to take that position, and I was obviously graciously offered. So I've been with them since June and have been the regional business manager with HP Schonox for Michigan, Toledo, and Northern Indiana for the past few months, and am enjoying getting out there, working with contractors, and learning more about subfloor prep.
Awesome. You know, I always love hearing about certification, second gen, third gen guys. So how young were you when you were on the floor, man? What are some of your first memories?
My first memories was probably, I was a kid. I was in elementary school going with my dad to be a scrappy. You know, he was a carpet guy primarily, and I would go out and I remember honestly, so my dad passed away a little over 2 years ago from mesothelioma, from asbestos in the tiles and the adhesives. And he left a legacy behind that was pretty remarkable. I mean, he mentored a lot of guys, and I know several guys now that have their own successful flooring businesses in our area that learned from him. He taught a lot of people a lot of things. But one of the earliest memories I remember is just waking up when it was still dark, and I was a kid in elementary school, and I just did not want to get up. I can remember just why are we awake? You know, it's dark, and getting into the box fan and the smell of this, like, I guess, gas station coffee style aroma, you know, and just carpet smells. And I mean, obviously when you're a kid, that's not glamour, right? But I mean, $20 a day for being scrappy is pretty good for an elementary age kid. So that's that's my earliest memories, that, and going to the warehouse, meeting all the people there, and crawling around on giant mountains of pad. It's just where I've always been.
Too funny, and I bet you at the time you were probably miserable waking up that early, but it sounds like it's a very fond memory at this point.
It is. I mean, for 60 hours a week for a 6-year-old kid is tough. But no, I'm just kidding. It was on the occasion, when I wanted to. It was time to spend with Dad, and you're right. It's kind of like fishing, when you're young, getting up when it's still dark, and you can barely hold your eyes open, and it's not at the time anything that I think you appreciate as much as you do when you're older. Looking back on those times, those were moments, and they shape who we are, and they. I think we do those things with our kids, those of us who have kids, and we kind of get it, but that's just life, right? I mean, experiencing those things. With the special people in your life, and I tried to deliver pizza for a couple of years and taken a couple other career paths, but as most of us know, someone gets you into flooring or pulls you into the trade, and it's kind of like a yo-yo or a boomerang. You try a couple other things, but I'd be dishonest if I was saying that the flooring trade hasn't been good to myself and my family.
Mm-hmm.
It's a a satisfying career. It overall, it has its challenges like anything else, but there's a sense of accomplishment with completed jobs, and there's a lot of variety. There's really not much to complain about. I love the flooring industry, and I think there's amazing opportunity there for a lot of kids and teenagers to get into the trade, especially with the vacuum we have in terms of available skilled tradesmen. And if you hone your craft, you can bring yourself up into this trade and do well for yourself.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's great that you were able to make a comparison to fishing, because I have some great memories of fishing with my dad, but boy, getting there at that young age was absolutely miserable. It was,
Oh yeah.
it was boring because you just sat there.
Oh man, was it boring.
Now as an adult, I take my son fishing with me, and I love the peace and just sitting there, and he's all, Dad, I'm bored. Dad, I'm bored. But when he gets that fish, man, I know he's going to have that same memory like I have with my dad, and it's great. And so it's good to hear, you were able to go out and have some fun with Dad, make a little bit of money, you learn something along the way, and now you're doing something that you're passionate about, and it shows in the way you talk about it. I've seen how you post in some groups online, and it, like I said, you're just passionate about it, and that makes all the difference in how somebody goes about their work and the quality that they produce and what you're going to get from them at the end of the day. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that really, I hear guys kind of go one or two different ways. And, before we kind of, go in another direction, I hear guys say that, to some guys, this is a job. That's what they do. They show up, they put their time in, they do what they need to do, and they go home. But for a lot of us, there's more to you can take more from this. If you want to invest time and energy in yourself and in your craft, it doesn't just have to be a job, and you don't have to hate this job, and it doesn't have to be something that you're miserable, doing. There's opportunity there, and largely you're in control of a lot of that. So yeah, I mean, I think that for me, anytime I can help someone, like you mentioned on the groups, or shed a little light, or make a phone call or something and give someone another opportunity, it's satisfying to be able to help out in any way I can. I mean, guys did that for me too, and we never stop learning, and no matter how old we get, there's always more to learn. So, and I'm sure you've experienced that as well.
That's exactly it. That's I tell people all the time, one of my keys to success is that I haven't cut myself off from learning. I learned that I'm not a guy that can go to school. I don't like it. I don't like having to read the book, do the reports, do anything, but I'm big on audiobooks that I can listen to during the day, whether they're marketing books or, just anything to get me info about how to grow my business, run my business more successfully, get my business out there to more people. I'm constantly trying to find a way to educate myself in some way to meet the dreams that I have. And if I get to do it while I'm doing something I enjoy, it's not so bad. But if you were to ask me to do a quiz on it, I'd probably fail. So there's lots of books that I'll probably listen to again. And if I only take away 10% of them each time I listen to it, I'm okay, because that's 10% more than I had before that. So
that's right.
Little by little, do what you do, find a passion in it, and put out some quality work. If you're really just begrudgingly going and it's a job, find something to really enjoy about it, because what we do transforms people's lives. People get cabinets, people get paint, you talk about it for a little bit. I always find if there's a good floor, people recognize that no matter how long it's been down.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, and I think that shows in the process too. I think we all know, if we've been in this trade long enough, we know that typically painters and drywallers and carpenters, they can get away with murder, but everybody looks at the floor, don't they? I mean, it is the most, I think, intensely scrutinized part of the project. You'll see all of these different things going on in all the different other areas of the house, but you might have, the potential to have a blue tape bomb go off on your floor at any given moment. So you got to be on your game.
You got it. And with any good floor comes floor prep. And
it does.
You are our new expert on that. You have transitioned out of installing so much, and you are a regional rep with Schonox, as you said, which makes subfloor prep products. And often overlooked. So let's get into that. You know, why is it important? Why do we have to make sure we have a good subfloor?
Like you said, we are always learning, and I have met so many guys that know so much more than I do. But I know that as well as you do, as we learn and we grow, we learn about new products, we learn about new techniques, and if we keep an open mind, there's always something to be gained from that. So, with regard to floor preparation, that was a big part of the draw for me to come on board with Schonox in June of this year. The opportunity presented itself, and a friend of mine was in this position prior, and gave me a recommendation, and I was grateful for that. I honestly did not see myself at that time transitioning out of installation so early. I know that 41 isn't young, but it's also not the point in my career where I thought I would be moving into another area of the business. But at the same time, I was extremely excited about it because at that time I had been using Schonox products on my own jobs for about 3 years, and I understood the value in the products that they've had, the confidence in what they've got. And even though Schonox is a relatively new name in the last 6 or 7 years here in the United States through HP subfloors, they've been around in Germany for over 120 years. And the track record is amazing. The product performance was something that what drew me to this company, almost immediately. And it's a nice transition to make here as an installer because, as I said, the variety is kind of a key component of what I like about floor covering. So being in the floor prep side of things, I get to work alongside guys who are installing various types of flooring in various different types of environments. So, and as you said, a floor prep is part of every one of those equations, whether the general contractor or the end user wants to admit it or not. Floor prep is in the budget at some stage of the game. So, floor flatness, moisture mitigation, these types of things are a part of almost every installation. And now I get to be on the ground and train with people that have been in this side longer than I have, and then turn around and be on a job with guys sometimes 2 to 3 times a week, helping them to do pours and to experience some self-leveling products, some patching compounds, and do things that they haven't done before, and then now offer some training to them, obviously, at no cost when we come alongside someone to partner with them. Obviously, I want guys to use our products. That's the goal here, is to get them turned on to Schonox, product line and those kinds of things, so they know what the difference is here between us and some of the others out there. But the more important part of this is getting them some new tools in their hands, showing them some staging techniques, some of the logistics of showing them they're actually capable of probably a lot more than they realize. These are all teachable things, and if someone is open to the idea of having me out, in our area to come on the job alongside them and work with them, we can have a good time with it, and they can learn more. And I think everyone benefits when guys are out there more educated in what they do and opening more opportunities for themselves. It becomes more profitable and more efficient for them.
I think it's great that you said that they can get education on more products. And a lot of guys will oftentimes get into I work with this. This is what I know. This is what I want to do. But that product line may not have a solution for what you need. You've got to expand your toolbox. How many different types of saws do we own? So
right.
Why would you start limiting yourself to one company that does subfloor prep stuff? Why not know more about a couple different companies and all the products they have to offer? And you're going to be able to find one that can fit your solution and make that job that much easier for you. And so that subfloor prep's important. Having access to multiple different product lines is important, and you can take it from there.
It is, and it's funny because you mentioned expanding your toolbox. You're more useful as an installer and as a floor technician if you have more resources at your fingertips. I have, transitioning into my job description is regional business manager for Lower Michigan, Toledo, and Indianapolis, basically north. For me, that was a little bit scary because I've never been. This is part technical, part training, and part sales. I have zero experience in sales. Like, I mean, outside of visiting customers at their homes and, explaining to them, if you count that, obviously I'm basically that part of it's an education thing for me, talking about products that I understand, helping them understand a little bit better. But as far as sales go, like I've never had sales classes or understood any of that stuff. So I felt like, I might be in a little over my head here in that regard, but the more I talk to people, and especially people in the sales side of things, they say to me often, you don't have to be good at sales if you know your stuff. If you know your product and you know the installation, the rest will follow. And I can't tell you how many times where I've been in meetings in this job. I have sales reps from, backing up a little bit, from when I was an installer. I always had great reputation, relationships with my sales reps, my product reps, the different manufacturers. They're all on my phone. If I'm using their products, I can call them or text them and get an answer, if not immediately, usually within an hour or two. If I've got a question, often, I mean, honestly, before the job is the best time to call. And I would have guys tell me that, listen, I don't mind how many times you call me. You usually call me before the job. I know they get those calls halfway through the job where they've screwed up. It's easier on them when we kind of talk through that stuff. But so I had good examples from my installation side of what a good rep is, and that reliability, what that means to have that connection with the installer. I've been on the other side of that, so I know what it means to make a call and get it picked up. On that side, it means a lot.
Yeah. So
it's funny to be on this side of things now. Like you said, the routine and those kinds of things. I mean, the conversations that I've had, it's like the eyes start to glaze over sometimes when I walk into these meetings until I say, I tell them about my installation background, especially with the installer side, that they look right up and now they start listening because now, we're in the same place mentally. And as far as our experiences go, I've had a lot of people start out that conversation, like you said, closed-minded, where I've walked into an appointment and they've said, well, I got to warn you, all we've ever used is, product X. And I'm like, that's fine. I'm okay with that. Let's talk about some other things, and we talk about problems that they run into, and Schonox being the company that it is, we have some remarkable products that will go in places, many others won't. And that's what really drew me to the company more than anything else. And so when we start talking about those things and I pull out our sample of APF over glue down carpet, and the jaws drop and we start talking about opportunities, they kind of let their guard down and forget about, this meeting we were supposed to have. And I literally had about 2 weeks ago, someone say to the distributor that I was with and say, I got to be honest, when you called me and set this appointment up, I thought, oh, great, I got to listen to this BS again. Just about another manufacturer coming in and talking about more products. I've never been in that position where I've got to have these meetings and listen to, reps talk to me about products they want me to buy, those kinds of things. But he says, but you know what, Jeremy, I'm really glad that you guys came in because I never knew about, any of these products that you guys are showing me. And I see a lot of potential in our jobs to be able to, to avoid demolition and do a lot of these things that we're doing. So it's funny to see on this side how that works. We all grew up using certain products and certain things, but I think if we're open-minded as we get older and we realize that new products are coming out every day, even within a manufacturer's line, if you don't have your finger on the pulse of what these manufacturers are doing and you're not staying up to speed on things, you're going to miss out on a lot because things aren't like they used to be 15 years ago or 10 years ago. This is a rapidly changing environment in this industry, and we have to stay up with things in order to compete in the marketplace.
It's funny that you say that because I think people are so open to you because you're going in with a different approach because you do have that installer background. You're not just some sales guy they picked up off the street. And so the big thing you're doing, you're going in and you're educating people. And honestly, we're going to beat a dead horse here on this show, and we're not even that many episodes in, and this is going to be a key always in the show. Education. You have to have it. You have to get it. You have to stay, like you said, on the pulse of what these manufacturers are doing, whether it's with the distributor for one of the engineered wood you really like, or for Schonox. You guys are always going to be pumping out new products. It's not, like you said, it's not how it is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. It's ever evolving, and technology has changed, and the kind of products we can make to be able to work with situations are so different that you may not have been able to pour self level over OSB 10 years ago. Now there's products for that. I know you make one. I know there's a couple other companies that do now, but if I go and get something off the shelf from a box store, their product isn't made for that, and there's guys that'll go and pick that up and use it all the time. They're just like, oh, it's just a little patch. It's fine. It'll work. Well, what happens 2 years down the road when the house settles a little bit more and it cracks? Now
Exactly.
you've got, who knows what that's going to sound like under your floor or due to it. So it's like you
Exactly.
said, it's key. You've got to stay on top of what people are doing, and what you're able to do is go in and talk with these guys on a level that makes them feel comfortable. You're not just some guy in there that was handed a product guide and learned it and can now say this does X, Y, and Z. You can relate to them on a level, and I think that gives you a leg up.
Exactly. And, you mentioned the plywood subfloor thing. I have a lot of people asking me how, or seeing in some of the Facebook groups, obviously, Flooring Installers of America, Tile Geeks, those kinds of things. The question comes up a lot about self-leveling over plywood. And, just for one instance, our AP synthetics, our synthetic gypsum products are designed to go over a variety of different subfloors, existing resilient, existing ceramic tile. And what really my first experience with Schonox was self-leveling over radiant heat on top of OSB. And I used our APF product because it was one of the only products I could find that did not require a lath, that could be poured directly over OSB and fully warranted. And this was probably maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And that was, I've never liked lath, to be honest with you. That's just me. I mean, I know everybody's got their own kind of personal, quirks and things like that, but I just get cut to, I mean, just the whole situation is something I like to avoid as much as possible. But, the strength of these products, I mentioned that the gypsum part of this, our synthetic gypsum being man-made versus mined, you're talking about sometimes twice the compressive strength of concrete, 6,200 PSI and up. These are incredibly strong products and incredibly flexible products as well, which makes them ideal for some of these installations that guys up until now really didn't have a solution for. So we're literally opening opportunities, and we talk about staying up to speed with what the manufacturers are doing as if it were some sort of a task. But to be honest with you, it's an opportunity. And I know that we view it this way on my side, that these problems can be presented as opportunities. You can go in now to a situation where they might have some destroyed gypcrete, some cracked floors, some existing tile that they don't want to remove, or some adhesive residue. And instead of looking at this as a problem, now, companies like Schonox can come alongside you and partner with you and turn that into an opportunity to become profitable and actually set yourself apart from the others who may have looked at that same project who don't have a solution for that. And now this is where the game changes for you. So now you're more equipped, you're more capable, and rather than thinking about what it takes to become familiar with products, it's actually an opportunity that now gives you the ability to go beyond where you currently are. This is when I started pouring self-levelers. I was probably 18 or 19 years old, and I'll be honest with you, this was over gypcrete, concrete, whatever it was. My dad would just send us out with a pallet of whatever was in the warehouse. I honestly don't remember ever bringing primer. And he would basically tell us, how can you tell how much water to use? Well, you just pour it in until it gets light brown, and they start to see the swirls. We didn't measure anything. This was a long time ago, but we were really robbing ourselves of a lot of different things there. Mainly, the liability and the responsibility that we had was something we weren't thinking about. But when you pay attention to the products and what they're asking you for in terms of, mixing ratios, mixing time, mixing speed, everything is different. You may read something, even if you're installing hardwood floor, you may have done it 100 times before, and then one day you pick up the installation instructions and something's changed. If you're not, paying attention to that, you're missing a lot, and it could be a critical mistake to go into that, blind. I know that some guys, they don't download the instructions, they don't read the instructions. that's a dangerous way to live, in my opinion. But, you're going to have that. I think for me as an installer all these years, my whole point was to minimize risk and to, give my clients an installation that they could be, happy with throughout the years and never have to worry about a callback other than for the next job opportunity.
100%. I don't want any of my clients to ever experience having to go through that installation process again. That's number one, because it's miserable. Number two, I don't want to buy them a floor. So I want to make sure it's done right the first time. And you touched on being able to, get education from your reps and stay up to date with them. And it's easier than ever now. You're in the Facebook groups with us. Your phone number's out there. I know Schonox has an app. A couple other companies have apps. You can get your reps info out of that. You can pull up their calculator and figure out how many bags you're going to need for something based on depth and square footage, and get your numbers so much more quickly than having to do it yourself.
Exactly.
It's getting easier and easier and easier to keep your pulse on this stuff instead of harder. And that's what's important. When you say, learning about product lines and stuff is important, it is, but it's easier than ever. You don't have to hunt somebody down. They're already there giving it to you. Or at least if there's a proactive company, and I think a lot of companies are switching to this proactive approach, in that they're getting the people out there to interact with you at where you're at. And that's the key, is you're not having to search for them anymore and learn who they are. They're not hidden. Everyone's out there in the open saying, hey, look, I'm right here. Just ask.
That's right. Yeah. And I do get, I get calls on occasion from guys in, Pennsylvania or California or Georgia, with a question, what primer do I use over this subfloor? I will answer that question as many times as I need to in a day. I don't mind. I mean, we're here to help. I know that I have a team, around me that we're always expanding our distribution and always expanding our representation throughout the United States. And I can answer a question for you, and then I can put you, in touch with your guy. And, for us to be out there and to be able to connect with the guys, the installers in the field, and help them is critical to who we are. I believe, at least from what I've observed, Schonox as a company in general, and you said it right. I mean, we have an app that's extremely user friendly and isn't cluttered. It works just the way that it should. It has, you can download the TDS, the safety data sheets, the calculations, all of that is at your fingertips. So, but again, like you said, if it's old school and just making a phone call, it's never been easier. I didn't have any of that stuff when I was younger. I didn't, maybe the reps were there, but we were just kind of winging it. We didn't have, proper instruction. I wasn't part of the union, so I didn't have any kind of, training in that respect. We just kind of listened to the older guys around us and did what they did. And, I've seen guys do all kinds of crazy stuff like everybody else has. I've seen guys water down carpet glue. And I can't even begin to tell. We've layered, cement backer board, twice. And, we used to pour our pans out of, red bags of concrete. And it's just crazy, the stuff that we used to do. But, this isn't the same environment we're in now. This is an advanced environment in the flooring trade we live in, where products are advancing. The requirements of these products are becoming higher. The tiles are getting larger. The wood planks are getting wider.
Yep.
If you're not getting in touch with some of these manufacturers and understanding what they're requiring of you, for me as a small business owner, when I was doing installation, it would only take one job failure potentially to put me out of business. And I was always, maybe I was motivated by fear in some respects, but at the same time, like you said, you've got unlimited options now as an installer. It's nice to be able to get your hands on products and get your hands on applications and get in touch with reps that can get you from point A to point B as easy as you can.
Well, and with education being so big and the reps being willing to educate, things like that, I think, you touched on, it was old school. We just did what the other guys did. We followed their lead. I think with being desperate for a new generation of installers, if we can show them that education is a key component, from us being the business owner, us being the lead installer, and we're out there showing them like, look, you need to read that set of instructions. I don't care that we installed this flooring yesterday. That box may be from a different batch, and they may have changed the instructions from one batch to the next. There could be something that's updated. If we can show them that we've run into this problem 100 times before, but what different solutions do we have? Is there a better one available this time? If we're instilling those values from the beginning, instead of just saying, this is the way it's done, this is how I've done it for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, let's do that, then we're going to change the mindset of the industry as a whole. And it's a grassroots movement essentially. But if you do that over the next 10, 20 years and we get these guys brought up right, then you're going to change the landscape of the quality of work that's out there and the options people have to get things done, because it is changing quickly. Like you said, a few years ago when you had to pour over the OSB and the radiant heat, how long ago was it that there wasn't an option available for that, and you would have completely had to have rethought how to do that job in its entirety? Or maybe the radiant heat had to come out. What options were really available before you had the Schonox solution?
Right, exactly. And there were, extra steps and like you said, completely different approaches that would have had to be thought of. I had a distribution partner there where I was, getting my supplies from, that was well educated on the products and was able to recommend something to me and put me in touch with the rep and give a phone call to him and make sure, I'm using this primer, I'm using this leveler, this is going to work. I remember asking him like 3 times. I'm like, you sure this is going to work? I've never heard anything like this before. This is, I'm nervous, and he said, don't be nervous. We do this all the time. This is what we do. And, that was APF. And I poured that floor. I set the tile on top of that when we were done. And, that floor has lasted a very long time, and it's been a long time. And those kinds of things where you can get some insight from somebody who's been, further down the road than you, it's valuable. So yeah, I mean, things change, products change, and we got to stay up to speed with them. We have the worst subfloor contest every year, something Schonox has done for the past, I think, 4 or 5 years. And, give us your worst. We have guys all over the country that they send photos of before, during, and after of products that projects that they've used Schonox to self-level, to patch, to do moisture mitigation. Some of these photos are scary. I mean, you wouldn't imagine putting a floor over top of these. And here the company is sending people to Las Vegas and doing Porsche tours and giving away all these different types of prizes every year. That's part of Thomas's vision when he basically brought Schonox to the U.S. 6 or 7 years ago. Was he feels we can go places that a lot of others cannot, and that's part of how we kind of prove that as a company. And again, I'm relatively new, so it's not my intention to speak on behalf of the company, but I've talked to a lot of these regional business managers and the management over here and Thomas, and if they didn't believe in the products, they certainly wouldn't be putting themselves out there like this. We have contractors putting down pallets and pallets and pallets every single day of these products, and they're standing behind them and impressing the end user and giving them options that just did not exist 5 or 10 years ago. And that's actually, to me as an installer, that's an exciting thing. When we can go and do something today that we couldn't do 5 years ago, I think everyone benefits from that.
It's making our jobs easier. You're changing the landscape of what's possible, and that's amazing. So guys, go find your worst subfloors, get pictures, use some Schonox products, and send them over, and let HP Subfloors take a look and see what you're able to do out there. Now,
absolutely,
you keep mentioning primer, and I think that's funny. So we always have like a little tips and tricks section. I think that the tip here is use primer. You cannot just pour self-leveling underlayment down. You have to apply a primer. I don't care what it's going over. And so can you give us a little insight into why this is so important?
Sure. And 99% of the time that's true. With primer, you have usually 2 different kinds of primers. Typically, I would say they perform a couple of different functions. one function is obviously preparing the floor to receive the self-leveling underlayment. So you're going to increase that bond. You're going to reduce the dust or the residual contaminants, potential bond breakers that might be there in terms of dust or dirt. Obviously, cleaning and vacuuming is important. Those kinds of things, but you're going to increase the adhesion. Primer is used on cars, it's used on walls, it's used all over the place, and Schonox really believes in the value of a primer because that's kind of your lifeline to that installation. So you have a non-porous floor or you have a porous floor, and that's really the important distinction there to make in the terms of which primer you'll use. And again, your rep can help you with that, or the app. That information is all there, but all of our primers are very fast drying. I think the maximum amount of time you'd be waiting for a primer of ours to dry, even over a non-porous surface, would be right around an hour and a half to 2 hours tops. Most of them are dry within 30 minutes to 40 minutes, sometimes even quicker. So as hard a challenge it is to get guys to understand the importance of priming, that's one thing that I think is another reason why the Schonox approach helps, because these things dry fast. You can prime your floor, go get your tools, get your things set up, and be ready, potentially to start getting your floor covering down and your prep done, so you can get the job completed. Low dust technologies, fast drying products, lead credits. These are the kinds of things that matter to people now in your industry, whether you're in residential or commercial. Fast tracking jobs, keeping on schedule, keeping things healthy. Like I said, my dad passed away from mesothelioma from asbestos in the tiles and adhesives. I've always been conscious for the past few years of silica inhalation, when cutting, those kinds of things. PPE and job safety is critical for me personally, for my family, for my boy. I have a 6-year-old son who I don't want to have him go through what I went through and my family went through watching my dad toward the end of his life, suffering from work related illness and exposure, having difficulty breathing and things like that. People say, "Oh, I'm going to die someday." I hear guys all the time. I think some of them are being honest with themselves, but I think some are also just kind of kidding to kind of take, because it makes them nervous. It's scares us.
It is.
These work illnesses are a real thing.
It is, and even OSHA came out with new silica dust guidelines, and so they're important. It's obviously a concern. It was asbestos, and then it was VOCs, and now we have silica dust. And once they get silica dust kind of in order, I'm sure they'll find something else. And the equipment is out there. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Oh well. I personally want to run around with grandkids one day, hopefully, if my son provides me with any, that would be great. I would look forward to that. I think it would be great. But I'm not going to get there if I'm not taking care of myself now. And so whether that's good knee pads, wearing a respirator instead of just a dust mask, because I am dealing with bigger quantities of dust as I pour a bag out, things like that. You've got to take that into consideration. It's very important.
Right. And, in addition to that, I don't wear a mask a whole lot now. I mean, we have, along with many other manufacturers, dust reduced technology is one thing we're big on. I mean, the amount of dust that comes out when you're pouring a bag has been greatly reduced, which is also important in a commercial environment, or a scenario where you have, like, let's say you're in a medical facility or somewhere where people are going to be paying particular attention to what you're doing and what's going on with your installation. You have a little cloud of dust come up, and you're going to have some people alarmed, in addition to your own health. But dust attachments, HEPA vacuums, and HEPA equipped devices, mixers that have vacuum access to them. These things are all going to, we're going to see, I think, a lot of development, in this side of the trade too, where it doesn't mean we have to strap on a huge mask across our face and tie ourselves up in a Tyvek suit, at all times. There will be, and there are more and more advancements right now to make things healthier for us on the job site that I'm thankful for, that make it even easier for guys to know that it's okay to protect themselves, because we're doing this every single day. This isn't the kind of thing where, though I'm gonna die someday, and it's just gonna, it's gonna cut exactly, 320 days off your life, and it's just gonna be like a flick of a switch. It doesn't happen that way.
Correct.
It's different than that. So, I think that with, dust reduced technologies, the HEPA filtration systems that we've got now, they may cost a little more, but they're worth it in the long run for ourselves and our family. And I'm excited about a lot of those developments as well.
Definitely. There's always the new technology coming out to continue to make things safer, whether it, like you said, it is with the HEPA filters or some kind of attachment that can go on the drill to hook the vacuum up to as you're pouring. You've got that saw stop brand now, so that if your finger touches it, it's locking up the blade immediately and dropping it down. There's all kinds of changes constantly happening, which is great. Like, if we can be out there and we can be safer, that's what matters. And it might cost you a little bit more money, but what is your health ultimately worth? Do you really want to spend your end years just in a miserable condition? Because, like you said, it's not going to take exactly 320 days off your life. It's going to, you might die earlier, but what is the quality of life at that point? So
exactly,
you've got to make that investment in yourself. There's one other thing I want to touch on. So you had said that, your primers are locking things in and they dry quickly. A lot of times, because we are pulling up the subfloors, we don't always see what we're dealing with and know we're going to have to do it. Maybe we keep some primer around and it's on the truck or in the trailer, whatever. How long can I leave that exposed? If I'm wrapping up a job and I get everything prepped and I know I can close a couple doors in like a residential setting, can I leave that overnight and come back in the morning and just start pouring?
Well, so I can speak to our primer specifically. I typically recommend, especially, and again, I'm relatively, new in some ways to the company, but I have had some experience with the products before coming here. I always feel like it's best if you can prime the same day. We have very fast drying primers. That's kind of part of the point there. Once your primer is dry and ready, that's the ideal time to actually start soft leveling. And if the more time that's exposed, you can have dust settle on it, you can have traffic come in on top of it. And sometimes there's just plain, a time constraint on some of these, typically not. But if you have a primer that dries within 30 minutes to an hour, just plan ahead a little bit, prime the floor, get your tools out, take your last couple breaks or whatever, and then, start prepping. And honestly, normally, whether I'm helping guys do 15 bags or whether we're doing 100 bags, when we start there at the beginning of the day, we kind of prep things out, get things cleaned up, prime the floor, and we can pour, 100 bags or more, and usually still be done by like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon and packed up and on the road. Okay. So it's a fast process on our end. I know that some primers out there take longer, but like I said, in a world where it's hard enough to get a guy to prime, and I understand that because of the process, it's nice to have some fast drying primers where you can get the floor ready, get it primed, pour, and be on to the next job. That's more efficiency, because if you've got guys out there that are skim coating the floor, and it really should be capped with an 1/8 inch leveler or something, they're going to spend all day, skimming and sanding and you really haven't achieved much there. The end results aren't as good. And honestly, those guys could have been, off of that job halfway through the day and getting the next one ready. And you come back the next day to a darn near perfect floor. That also increases the efficiency and the speed of your install. So, as part of it is timing and part of it is planning. But if you kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together correct the first time, then the next time you go to do it, it just becomes routine. And the guys get proficient. And it's really, honestly, if you haven't done a lot of self-leveling and you don't really see a place for it, I'm telling you, it's actually some of the easier and some of the more satisfying work there is in our trade. You're priming on your feet, you're leveling on your feet. You're not crawling around all day. And at the end of the job, if anyone has done one, they know what the satisfaction it is to sit back and look at the reflection of the lights and the doors in that nicely poured floor that you just did, and pat each other on the back and be proud of what you've accomplished. Because although it's not the most difficult task, in the world, there are still not a whole lot of guys that can do it. And, we're helping guys to get more comfortable with it, but it's something that I think almost everyone could learn and benefit from, because you increase, obviously, the efficiency of your job, you increase the end result, and especially in like a resilient application, it's the difference is night and day. When you look at a supermarket floor or somewhere where they've just gone, with the absolute budget option, which means a couple guys with 10 bags of skim coat, and again, we saw a lot of SL. We saw a lot of moisture resistant patching compound, and guys love it, and it has its place, but there is no substitute for a nice flat floor when the guys come in, and it shows at every step through the process when that's been done correctly, all the way to the final stage when you have that floor on there and it's nice and flat, and your end user's happy, and everybody goes home feeling good about it.
You're totally correct. When you get to look at that fresh pour, and it's like glass, and the reflections are in it, and when you go in there the next day, you get to lay on one of the flattest floors you've ever laid on.
It's so nice.
It's such a good feeling, and that you're going to get good adhesion. It's so much easier to work with. It's more satisfying. You have a good end product. 90% prep is everything. You've got to get it right, and there are products out there to help you and make it successful. So I appreciate your insights into this, you coming on, being willing to discuss it with us, give us a couple of tips and tricks and really insight into how we as installers can be more successful and make sure that we are giving our clients the best end results possible so that they're satisfied.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity. Again, for info on the products, it's hpsubfloors.com. And I know HP Schonox North America, we're always expanding distribution, always expanding our representation. We're adding guys to the team all the time. And I'm just happy to be part of such an energetic and forward-looking company that actually excites me as an installer and as a tradesman. Please reach out to me or to us if you have some need to get in touch with your RBM, and let's look at some new solutions for you and see what we can do. I know that anybody out there that's within the company would be glad to help.
So, Jeremy, I know you dropped the website again. You got hpsubfloors.com. They got the app out there. If guys want to reach you, where can they find you?
I'm on the Facebook. I'm on the Instagram, the LinkedIn, all that good stuff. My number is 517-316-5380. If nothing else, if you can reach your rep on the app, but I'd be glad to throw you an answer to a question if you have one, and then maybe get you in touch with your guy. And maybe we're making that transition to gaining representation in your area, or maybe we've got guys out there just pounding it already. So any way that I can help to direct people to the right place, I certainly can help get you in the right place and get you moving forward with some new opportunities and trying some new products.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on and giving us the insights you've got. And I look forward to being able to see what you're up to, where you're going, who you're working with, because you're always posting stuff, and I hope we can talk again in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. That's all the time we have for this week. Be sure to subscribe so you can hear each and every episode. We can be found on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and most major podcast directories. Don't forget to leave a review and let us know what you think about the show. If you'd like to be a guest, have questions or feedback, you can email us at flooreducation@gmail.com. You can help support the show by becoming a patron over at patreon.com/flooreducation. Remember, your education never stops.